Do you ever have thoughts like I need to make it to that door before I count to 5 or else I'm going to die? Yes. I used to do that. I did that when I was a kid for sure. Or if I didn't jump 3 steps before going up the stairs, something would grab me from behind. Edit, I would change the step amount. Just an example of little challenges I would give myself. Glad I'm not crazy lol. I believe this is a symptom of OCD. No, not I'm going to die no. When I was younger I would sometimes think everything has to be tidy and in order before I open an important message, email or text, or I make or receive an important call about something life-changing or very important. Almost as if everything had to be perfect, and I thought that would influence my luck or the outcome. What you've described sounds like OCD influenced predictive thoughts or irrational thinking. Did your political opinions change over the years? If so, why? Started on the liberal side because my parents were and I was just following them. I drifted to the right/center right because I was slowly not a fan of government. I went libertarian for a few years because I really didn't like the government, especially when they nominated Trump versus Hillary. After the pandemic cooled down, I left the idea of libertarianism behind because I noticed that libertarians were all talk. They never lived up to their "we will be good people so we don't need the government." Now I settled on being personally moderately conservative but holding my nose to vote for Democrats because of all the crap the Republicans keep doing. Yup. I was pretty apathetic about politics through undergrad. I supported things like LGBTQ rights. But never though we'd see federalized marriage equality, so I just sort of shrugged my shoulders regarding which party I supported. I graduated into the Great Recession and had a heck of a time getting a job that could support me. I started to pay attention to what was going on to hold the banks accountable for the recession and housing crisis and, as a result, became a lot more liberal on economic issues than I had been. The older I get, the more nuanced I see politics. But I also find myself shifting further to the left economically. They have evolved over time. When I was younger I leaned more libertarian, and was more aligned with the political right. As I learned more about those on the right and the left, my voting has shifted leftward. Primarily because of the strong streak of anti-intellectualism and orthodox religiosity that dominates the political right, as well as the realization that big corporations being in control of your life is at least as bad as big government being in control. I don't agree with everything Democrats do, but I agree with almost nothing Republicans do these days. People say you have to work in order to get good outcomes and quat. But what if someone works hard and still doesn't achieve anything? You have to work to get good outcomes is different than working hard will get a good outcome. And oppos, they are more saying you have to work to have a shot and working hard will increase your odds, but it's still not guaranteed. There are a lot of other factors involved beyond working. I think one basic point to make here is that working hard by itself doesn't bring you anywhere. In most cases, you need a plan of action from point A to point B and then work hard on each step. It is not just randomly working hard. Not only that, but many people have shit handed to them through inheritance. The quote is a lie. The reality is that the world and situations are not fair. You can bust your ass, do everything right and be a good person and barely get by, while a piece of shit can do the bare minimum and seem to have everything handed to them. There is no rhyme or reason. Most of the time it has more to do in what people are born into and opportunities that may present themselves. You want certainty? I'm really sorry, but that's not something you can have. Grasping for it will only make your life harder. Look at what paths you will be whole walking, not where the path leads. No one can walk a path before they have walked it. If you want someone to chat with, DM me. I have a realistic take to counter the "life isn't fair" comments. Sometimes you work as hard and as best as you can, but someone else worked harder or has more natural talent. It doesn't make it unfair. You just weren't the best. That doesn't mean that your best isn't out there. Don't get me wrong. Life is often unfair. But there's no reason to be unnecessarily bitter because it may not be the case. Choose to think the best and you'll be able to do your best. One day you'll be the winner and you'll be able to be graceful about it. Just don't give up. What does America do better than most countries? I tried to open a bank account in a third world country. The service was awful and it took 3 days because they kept remembering items I need to go home and get. I open up a bank account in America. It took 25 minutes and they printed my debit card on the spot. If you're a car enthusiast, it's pretty great being in America. Most states don't tax based on engine size or by the mile, so car ownership costs are relatively low compared to the rest of the world. But the downside is public transport is fairly bad in majority of America. And lastly, the larger states have very little traffic law enforcement, which can be quite dangerous. Convince its poorest citizens that the system that holds them down is actually good for them. Like plenty of countries do it, but holy shit, can I guarantee that right now plenty of people suffering under late-stage capitalism are absolutely hating the fact that I'd even think of criticizing late-stage capitalism. America is definitely best at tying an economic model to national identity. Create technology for widespread use. If there's a leap forward in technology, you can almost be sure it came from the United States. So many of the big tech companies are there. And so many of the small and medium-sized ones as well. Also, make water cold. Whether it's with ice or refrigerated drinking fountains, Americans really know how to make water cold. I haven't been in a lot of countries, but from my limited experience, it's the Americans with Disabilities Act. I have a lot of complaints about it. But I can still say that using public transportation doesn't require me to walk down or up 40 steps. With the alternative being walking 3 miles to find an elevator that can fit one person at a time and moves so slowly it's barely usable.